For me, handheld gaming PCs still aren't commonplace enough to feel ordinary, so I don't take for granted that I have, as the great Otto Octavius once said, the power of the sun in the palm of my hands. And by the sun, I mean my Steam, Xbox, and GOG game libraries. Having said that, there are now enough of these devices that they're starting to step on each other's toes. The ROG Xbox Ally X and the ROG Xbox Ally are the latest entries into the handheld gaming PC world. And as far as toe stepping goes, they've got steel-toed boots and they are stomping. As the name indicates, the ROG Xbox Ally and Ally X are new versions of those same Asus devices that have been available for a few years now, except they align themselves with the Xbox brand. The thing is, there's not much new about them. They are effectively the same hardware with Xbox branding. And what little is new is executed to various degrees of success. I've been using the Xbox Ally X, and don't get me wrong, it is a powerful device that has allowed me to sit in bed and play both older and brand new games as if they were running on a console or a reasonably powerful PC. But I've also been doing that a lot on the original Ally from 2023 and 2024's Ally X. And because of that, the Xbox Ally X has turned out to be the most ordinary and unsurprising experiences I've had with one of these devices. I realize that I'm in a very privileged position in that I have access to a bunch of these portable gaming PCs, and in many ways, that means this isn't for me. Instead, it's for people who may not have made the jump into handheld gaming PCs yet and want to do so. But even then, I'm not sure if I'd recommend the Xbox Ally or the Xbox Ally X as a starting point. The main difference between the old versions and the new is the processor. The Xbox Ally X has an AMD Ryzen AI Z2 Extreme. What that means for you is a small boost in power that, for the most part, isn't significant enough to be a big deal. Otherwise, the experience you have playing the same games on both devices is going to be nearly identical for the most part. The differences between them are more in the form factor and the software they run. The Xbox Ally X is much more comfortable to hold than the originals, as they are shaped to feel more like controllers we're all used to holding thanks to the grips. The Ally X also has a more premium look and feel to it thanks to a pattern on the front of the device which gives it a more textured style. More significantly, the Xbox Ally X uses the same impulse triggers as the Xbox Series X and S controllers. That means you'll get much better haptics and feedback. That feels much better, and this is something that I've definitely appreciated having. The knock-on effect of that, however, is that the Xbox Ally X is a little heavier and bulkier. This is a your mileage may vary kind of situation that depends on how quickly you get hand fatigue, holding something reasonably hefty for an extended period of time. The latter has been more of an issue for me, since it makes the device a little less portable than the original Ally X. The controller grip style means that pretty much all of my existing cases don't work for it, and all of the new options are pretty bulky. If you're an absolute freak and just want to chuck it into your bag to raw dog it, the shape of the Xbox Ally X device makes it a bit awkward. I carried it around using a crossbody sling and never felt quite comfortable enough. When I'm traveling, I usually keep my gaming devices in my personal bag, and the Asus version pretty easily slips in, and then I can put stuff around it. But with this version, it all becomes a bit unwieldy, so I'd be less inclined to take this one out and about in the same way. The other major change comes in the form of software. The Xbox Ally devices run a version of Windows that enables it to be a little more lightweight. More importantly, it also includes a new dedicated Xbox full screen experience that it boots directly into, and it optimizes Windows for gaming. The game bar, which PC players will be very familiar with, is also integrated into the OS and accessed via an Xbox button. Hitting it will give you access to the launcher, and you can open Steam or Battle.net or Epic Game Store, Ubisoft Connect, and other third-party applications all from there. And they're all integrated in a way that gives you an aggregated library. This all sounds great on paper. In practice, it often feels like a very basic wrapper that makes using the device feel a little convoluted. This is partly because of the way the Xbox Ally natively functions, and partly because the Xbox layer, Steam, and the Asus Armory Crate software are all constantly running into each other, meaning it doesn't behave in a predictable way. My biggest gripe with the original ROG was that it boots into Windows. I can't quite explain why, but booting up a gaming device and then being met with a desktop PC style Windows login screen is really not great for me. Armory Crate is a confusing, very unintuitive user experience on top. Together, they create a gaming experience that frequently reminds you that you are playing on a device that is a PC crammed into a tiny form factor and is running a bunch of software that has been beaten into shape that kind of works. On more than a few occasions, I would hit the Xbox button and not be sure what was going to happen. Sometimes the game bar would pop up. Other times it would pop up and then Steam windows would appear on top, fighting for attention. Occasionally, I'd press the button and nothing would happen, or I'd hit it repeatedly to make the window I want to come up eventually. More frequently, the game bar would open, but none of the buttons would work. So I had to either use the touchscreen or keep hitting the Xbox button until the game bar decided it wants to be friends with the buttons again. All this together makes me feel like I'm not playing a piece of hardware designed and engineered to play video games, despite the fact it is very capable of doing exactly that. And when it does, it's impressive. This isn't until I have to deal with the operating system. I can't count the number of times I've had to swipe up from the bottom of the screen to bring up the Windows taskbar to force a game to the front or to shut it down because it's no longer responding or the game has launched and then the Xbox interface has popped up over it for no discernible reason. It is undoubtedly frustrating, but easy enough to deal with by closing things and reopening them later. But I shouldn't have to keep doing this. It's not the kind of experience I want to have, and for those who feel the same, there is a better alternative. I try to avoid criticizing things for what they aren't instead of analyzing what they are, but in this case, it's difficult to steer the conversation around the Steam Deck and avoid it. The Steam Deck and the Steam Deck OLED are both less powerful than the Xbox Ally devices. At times, it's evident since some of the games run considerably better on the Ally even without looking at specific frame data. However, the experience of turning the device on and playing a game is so much better that for most people, I would recommend them as an alternative. They boot directly into Steam OS instead of Windows login screens, and Steam OS is far more capable and better suited to the handheld format. It runs smoothly, and if you want to, you can install other launchers or import titles from other platforms into your Steam library. Admittedly, some games do require dual booting Windows, but those interested in playing those games will likely be savvy enough to make that process happen easily. Valve's offering from a software perspective has a Nintendo-like ease to its user experience. It's intuitive, clean, and works exactly how you want and expect for that vast majority of the time. For me, I'm willing to sacrifice some horsepower to have that, instead of having to troubleshoot a tiny Windows PC every time I turn it on. The price factor also comes into play in a major way. The Xbox Ally X is around $1,000, which makes it a hard recommendation for the average person who wants to play PC games trouble-free. If you're a little more tech-savvy and okay with having to fiddle with settings to dial in the experience on an OS and game level, the Ally X earns its keep through power alone. Outside of gaming laptops, it's among the most capable at running video games from a technical standpoint on a device you can shove in a bag and whip out anytime you want to play a game. But that use case also applies to existing ROG Ally and Steam Deck devices, which can save you hundreds of dollars. If you spring for the Steam Deck OLED, games look fantastic even without the extra horsepower. Where the Steam Deck feels like it can be a dedicated primary and only gaming platform that you'll have a seamless and slick experience with that is comparable to a console, the Xbox Ally very much feels like it functions like an extension of PC ecosystems, whether that's Steam, Xbox, or any other. And to be fair, that is a big part of what Xbox wants it to be. There's a whole marketing campaign attesting to that. But in this case, the ROG Xbox Ally X is a case of this can be an Xbox, as opposed to this is an Xbox. There are definitely people out there for whom the Xbox Ally and Xbox Ally X make sense, but these handhelds have quite a few bars to clear for most people.